This video I'm going to replace the oil in a 1990 VX800 Suzuki. And basically the procedure is going to constitute removing the filler plug here. We're going to remove the oil filter right there by my finger. Use a filter wrench to get that off. And drain the oil into our oil pan via the drain plug. We'll get a better shot of that later. Now, according to my owner's manual, the first steps in this process should be to remove the filler cap and the drain plug and drain the oil. But personally, what I always like to do is the oil filter. I always like to loosen it off a little bit, just make sure it's not seized on there, because I got to use this bike to travel around, and I don't want to have all the oil drained out of it and find out that oil filter is seized on there. In this video we're going to use a strap type oil filter wrench to remove the oil filter off of this motorcycle. Now you can probably see why they call it a strap type filter wrench. It's got this strap on it here which wraps around the oil filter. Now on the metal part of it we take our ratchet wrench, stick the drive there into the end of the filter wrench, set the ratchet for lefty-loosey, in other words counterclockwise, because we're going to want to take the filter off, and as always to remove something it's counterclockwise. Now just to show you the logic of this, just pretend my hand is the oil filter wrench. Depending on which way we wrap this, it's either going to tighten or loosen off the oil filter. So as I kind of turn this, we can see that that's actually going to put a stress in that direction and remove it. Now if we wrap the wrench the other way, again we'll pretend that my hand is the filter, and now we can turn it clockwise and tighten. So stick our ratchet on there. This is the oil filter. Wrap that. We're going to lay it in the filter like so. Then I'm going to start turning this down. And when we get it on the motorcycle, we see as we turn that tightens on the filter, and as I turn the wrench, that's going to turn the filter counterclockwise and loosen it off. So we'll do that. So here we are, oil filter right there. As we discussed, going to take our strap, lay it over the top of the filter while trying not to hit our video camera. I had to turn that around because I had the wrench end pointing in the wrong direction. So I have that laying over like so, and then I'm going to start rolling up the metal portion of our wrench. Now you see how that kind of tightens up there. Hopefully you can see that. Tightened up around the oil filter. Now I'm going to take my wrench, stick that in the end of the, trying to do this without hitting my camera. Pop that in the end of the wrench. And now, making sure that I have the proper setting on the ratchet for counterclockwise, lefty-loosey. It's going to hold this kind of to keep it straight. I do not want to damage this filter, because I have had situations where you basically have to, once they get crushed, and you're cutting them away from the engine. So I'm just going to kind of hold that and start turning my wrench. And as I say, when you're doing this, Just watch that filter. Apply your pressure. And if this started to become damaged on me, I would stop. But I think you can see, hopefully, the oil filter is loosening off there. So there you have it. That's how you use a strap type oil filter wrench to release the filter. I'll take that fully off in a minute. Okay, I'm going to see if I can strategically get this on camera. Tough spot here, but here's our drain plug, which in the case of this bike is a 14mm bolt. So I'm hoping this is going to come out in the camera. So I stick my socket on there, got my ratchet, make sure that that wrench is set for counterclockwise, which it isn't, so I'm going to change that. Place that strategically on my drain plug, and as always, just kind of ease on to what that came off pretty easy there. Take that out, the drain pan underneath. I hope this actually comes out on the camera. And as I say, we've already verified that our oil filter will come off. Loosened it off a little bit. So now I feel confident draining the oil. And also, I took the bike for a run on the highway prior to this, just to make sure that the oil was hot and it would drain out completely. Okay, the oil has completely drained out. I gave the plug a little wipe there, and I'm just gonna get that in there, tighten it up. I think I'm just gonna skip that part where I put the wrench on and tighten it up, because it's just a little bit too hard to get this camera balanced in there. What the heck? I'll just hold it. At my socket. Change the setting on that. I'm gonna go for righty-tighty. Get that on there. Basically, I'm not gonna get too aggressive. Tighten that up a bit there. We'll be looking for leaks afterwards anyway. I'd rather have to tighten it a little bit than over tighten it and strip that bolt. And we're going to clean off that too, because we always want to clean off anything where we're looking for leaks later. We don't. So after the fact, if we're looking for leaks, you want to make sure you clean everything first. Okay, had that filter loosened before, but still not hand tight. Tried to, or hand loose I should say, I guess. So we'll have to use the filter wrench again. The last little bit. I'm gonna knock that camera over, I know it. And you get the idea, there it is. I'll just keep moving the filter wrench back a little bit. And I get this socket now in place. Hitting that oil pan. Da-da-da. I get that drain pan out of the way. So I don't even know if I'm on the filter anymore with that camera. Anyway, it's coming off there now. And I just keep moving the wrench back. I'll put this socket wrench too. Da-da-da. And there we go. And now it's hand tight. Out of the way. I try to push the filter in a little bit as I turn it out. Seems to keep some of the oil from... in this case, it's all going to make a mess anyway. And there. I give that a little rub there, get rid of the old oil from where the new oil filter is going to meet the engine block. I use a lint-free rag there. So I got a bit of clean oil in this cap here. I'm going to take that and just around the gasket on the oil filter, again where it's going to meet the engine block, just rub a little bit of oil around that. Now, I'm going to put our new oil filter on there, and this should go on really easy. And if it doesn't start to thread on real easy, then stop doing it, because again, you do not want to strip the threads. Right. Oops. It's all full of oil. I'm going to have to give that oil filter a rub there. Anyways, I keep turning that until it touches the engine block. So, my instructions tell me to keep turning that until it hits the mounting surface, which it did, and then I'm supposed to turn this 2 full turns, and I have to mark it top dead center. Now, if this was a white filter, I would just take a black pen and mark it. I don't like to do this, but I'm going to put a little scratch on here. I don't like to encourage rust, but this is black, so we're going to use that as a reference point. Hopefully you can see that mark. So we're going to turn this filter now with the strap type filter wrench, 2 full turns. Okay, again, I'm going to try to do this without knocking this camera around. We're going to use our strap type filter wrench to turn that oil filter 2 complete turns from that little mark I made on the filter, because that's what our instructions in the owner's manual tell us to do. So I'm wrapping the filter So, the drain plug is back in and the oil filter's on. And one of the most critical things that I think to do is clean up all that mess that we made, because when we end this procedure, we're going to look for leaks, because we don't want this thing getting down the highway all revved up and oil start to leak into the engine and cook it. So we're going to rev it up here and check for leaks, and we don't want to be looking at leftover oil and thinking, oh well, maybe that was there from when I changed the oil. So clean it all up. And here's the oil filler cap on this bike. Owner's manual tells me to put, I think it's 2,800 milliliters of the specified oil into the bike. I'm going to do that, and I don't think I'm going to tape it because I don't have a funnel handy, so we'll just pour that in and finish up. Okay, so there's our filler plug, and on this bike, here's our gauge here. So that's where we see the level. It's, as you can see, transparent, and after we're done, we should see oil between the low and the high mark there. So I put the 2,800 milliliters oil in it. It actually looks over full to look there now, but that will probably go down because we haven't run the engine yet, and the oil filter will not be completely full of oil yet. Put our oil filler cap back in there. Tighten that up. And we'll start this bad boy and see how it runs. So, I'm going to put the choke on. Start the bike up. Now, this is just something I like to do, whether it's a bike or a car or whatever. You don't have to do it. It's not recommended in the owner's manual, but just something I always did. Because of the fact that the oil filter doesn't really have oil in it at the moment, I am going to turn the bike over, hold this camera, see if I can do this and hold the clutch in, and hit the start button at the same time. Not really going to see this, but basically what I like to do is just kind of start it a couple of times, give it a chance for the oil to get into that filter. Do that again. As I say, that's just something I do. Now we're going to let this run for a minute. And we're going to check for leaks. Careful if you're doing this, make sure you're not in around moving parts. Don't have a long sleeve shirt on and start poking your hands in around there. I like to put a piece of white styrofoam or newspaper or something underneath. So if there is a leak somewhere I can see it. Everything seems to be fine. In around the oil plug, the filter. All appears to be good. So that's it. I'm going to let that run. I'll take it for a ride up the highway. Keep an eye on our oil level and top it up if need be. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.